Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be talking about NFTs or non-fungible tokens. Exactly what are they, and then looking to what they are doing now and what they might look like in the future and future use cases for them. So for people who aren't really familiar with fungibility or non-fungible tokens, and you haven't watched my previous episode covering it, I will link that in the description, but it's pretty simple. A non-fungible token is something that is like unique, non-divisible, and non-interchangeable. What that means is when you compare it to something that is fungible, which is interchangeable, uniform, not unique, and divisible, the best way to look at it is through two examples. So something that is fungible is something that regardless of where it is or where I get it from or who's holding it, it's worth the same. So for example, Bitcoin, fiat dollars, in that specific, nation sovereign currency, and then something like, gold. All of these are fungible because regardless of where I am in the world, who I'm selling it to, Bitcoin, gold, all these things, they're always worth the same value. But something that is a non-fungible token or just anything non-fungible is simply like a painting or something that is unique in that it might be valued differently in different places in the world. If it was stolen, that could change the value of it, right? Because if you stole gold and the government confiscated it and then the government sold the gold, they would still sell it at a regular price. It's not like stolen gold. But something that is fungible, right? I mean, non-fungible, like a painting. If I stole that painting and I tried to sell it, you might get nothing for it because it has a unique value based on who's selling it, who's buying it, where you're buying it, all these different things. So the easiest way to understand this in the crypto world is just that these NFTs are taking something that is unique and then just tokenizing it onto the blockchain so that people can essentially interact with the blockchain and, create that verification, that ownership, all these beautiful things that the blockchain enables, but being able to do that with collectible things and just unique items that otherwise wouldn't be represented in the form of a regular token. With that being said, though, I'd like to stop and give a shout out to my sponsor. Today's sponsor is Market Square by Arc.io. They've released a new video called The Blockchains of Ready Player One, where they go through this movie and dissect it in terms of how the blockchain could have powered the VR game in that movie. This essentially goes through and shows you how blockchain could power real games, NFTs, virtual reality experiences, and oracles as well. I highly recommend it as it's amazing production quality and does a great job of explaining these things. I've watched all three and I think they're fantastic. The link is in the description, so go and check it out. So when we're talking about actual use cases and what NFTs look like today, some great examples that have lasted for quite some time are something like Cryptokitties. So Cryptokitties are just collectibles that exist on the Ethereum blockchain, and you can buy them, you can breed them and match them together and hopefully get a rarer NFT. And essentially, people want the better NFTs, the more rare ones. So they're trying to collect them and get to a point where they have more rare NFTs and people want to buy those. It's kind of like you have, trading cards, like Pokemon trading cards, and there's only a certain amount of one card. So eventually over time it goes up in value, but someone still has to buy it from you. So it's not worth a specific amount. It is what people are willing to pay for it. And in that same way, with NFTs, we have the same sort of thing for collectibles, art, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of like something a little more novel, in my opinion, you've got things like crypto domains. So I have scottcbusiness.eth, and that exists in my MetaMask wallet as an NFT. But what that allows me to do is use that address, that domain, scottcbusiness.eth, and then people can send cryptocurrency to that address and it'll map to the correct cryptocurrency that they send. So if you send me ETH, it'll just send it to my ETH address. And that is a more interesting use case, I would say, for NFTs. While I think collectibles and art is an amazing use case and what they're actually achieving for that space, I think that's awesome. But I'm more interested in more innovative, like new things that we haven't really seen before. So that's why I really like the domain example, but there's so many other examples of things that you can do. We'll get into that in just a moment. It's important to consider that not most people know NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain, but there's tons of NFTs on tons of different protocols. So it's not just, is this NFT something that I should buy? You also have to consider the actual protocols that they're using underneath. So it's not as simple as it maybe should be, because you've got different fees for transactions and all these different things. But there are a lot of different protocols out there, ENJ, WAX. So there's all these different things, and fungible tokens that are listed on Ethereum are listed as ERC20, whereas NFTs follow the ERC 721 standard, which again is just a fancy way of saying that they are collectibles or unique versus fungible tokens, which are ERC20. So what's interesting for me in terms of like use cases in the future, there's so many things that are being built out now, supply chain tracking, copyright, being able to actually digitize copyright and monetization into the form of an NFT, realty tokens for real estate. There's all these extremely innovative use cases that are popping up and that are evolving and developing. So some more use cases are digital art, as we just said, tokenizing actual physical assets, like I mentioned with real estate, but you could do this with anything. Digital rights and monetization, like I just mentioned. A good example of this is Taylor Bennett, Chance the Rapper's brother, tokenized a song in the form of an NFT where he made, I believe, 100 NFTs, kept half of them for himself, but the other 50 represented each 1% ownership of the song itself. So if you were to buy one of his NFTs, then you would get 1% ownership of that song, including 1% of future revenue from that song. So it's essentially allowing people to invest, or basically like, do an initial public offering or initial coin offering, but with a personal asset. So like a song or a book or, anything like that could be. Basically, you can create derivatives of it with a NFT and completely, make a whole new market for these types of things, allowing people to get invested and support people in a much more decentralized way. Because if you can get people to invest in your music, then you can, you can avoid all the things around, going with a publisher and all these different things. And the people are then incentivized to listen to your song, to spread it around, to get other people to listen to it. So it's an amazing marketing play, as well as just allowing people to get behind you and actually support you in a decentralized way. So that's fantastic. We've also got collectibles, real estate, domains. I mentioned all that. So that is kind of what I see today. But when we look to the future, there's so many new use cases, and the sponsor for today actually looks at a bunch of these in the videos that they have, and I linked that. But some other things that we can talk about, and they mention a couple of these, but one that's going to be very big in the future is gaming. When gaming really embraces tokenizing different in-game assets and creating NFTs, while we do have a lot of blockchain-based games, there aren't really many popular mainstream games that have adopted this model or integrated this in any way, sense, or form that I've seen. And if you think about it really simply, like if you get a skin in a game, or any type of asset, like in World of Warcraft, you might get like a weapon and you want to sell it. These things are already happening today, but it's against the terms and conditions, and people have to go through PayPal and do all this sketchy stuff. Whereas if we had actual NFTs for every video game, that would create amazing secondary marketplaces for people to buy and sell. And then the games themselves could earn money in the forms of maybe like a 3% fee on every transaction or whatever it happens to be. Because normally it doesn't really make sense for them to do this, because you buy it from them and then that's it. But if they get a fee from the secondary market, then the game publishers themselves are also incentivized to participate, and it helps the users because now you just playing a video game will actually earn you money because you could sell the assets that you earn. And again, as they go through in the Ready Player One sponsor video, they talk about how if you could truly tokenize everything, it could port to different games with the same asset. So in one game, you'd have like a sword, but then in a racing game, it would be a special car or something, and it would port between games, and it would just create this insane, epic, interoperable video game universe. And that's kind of what they cover in that sponsored video, and that's awesome. And there's all these other use cases too, right? Healthcare records, identity management for KYC. So say you do one KYC one time, you get an NFT that represents that, and then you just apply that NFT to any new platform you sign up for. There's so many platforms that I have to send my ID to either verify on an exchange or, whatever it happens to be. And you could easily get around that with a much better KYC identity management, and that could be done in the form of an NFT. So there's a lot of different use cases. Basically, sky is the limit for what NFTs could potentially achieve in the future. I'm curious, what are you looking for? What are you investing in right now? What are your thoughts on NFTs? Because to be fair, you've also got to consider at the end of the day that a lot of NFTs are either going to be worth a lot or they're going to be worth nothing, because it's just based on whether or not people want it. So in the same way that, people might go and invest in art or whatever, a lot of art is worth next to nothing, and a lot of art and very few pieces of art are worth millions and millions. So in the same way, in the NFT universe, you're going to have that same dynamic, but, also to the point of, if you get a very, very low rarity, let's say, and in terms of like collectibles, people might not ever want to buy that. So that's kind of just like worthless. So you've also got to have a little bit of this mentality of, this might not be worth something, but I do want it in terms of just the collectability. In terms of when you talk about like digital art and collectibles, like when you buy Pokemon cards, not every card is really worth that much because you get the low common cards, but then there's very rare cards. So in a little bit of a way, I would say some of the collectible stuff is kind of gambling. Like when I get 2 Cryptokitties and I breed them and I spend the transaction fee, and I hope that the one produced is worth more than what I spent and what it cost me to get the other 2. So in a way, I will caution and say there is a bit of gambling in a sense involved with a lot of collectibles, because you really don't know where that's going to go. And personally, I would say it's better off to invest in the protocols, like the underlying protocols, rather than the specific NFTs, if you just want to get a little bit of exposure. But if you're actually interested in the art or whatever it happens to be, definitely get exposed and try it out. I did own a bunch of Cryptokitties. I've sold them. I still have a bunch of OX planets. I've got my domains, as well as I had Realty tokens for about a year, and that was very, very awesome. I'm going to be buying more Realty tokens in 2021. The future of NFTs, there's a lot that we might see. One last thing to keep in mind is that we haven't seen anything for regulation. So for all we know, there could be some crazy regulation coming in the next few years, and that could massively impact people. Do keep that in mind, because this is kind of like the wild, wild west. We may not be in alt season, but we're definitely in NFT season. There's a lot of hype. So definitely be cautious, but I think it is worth, getting in there and testing it out a little bit and trying out, all the things that are out there. So let me know, what NFTs are you guys interested in? What kind of things are you doing with NFTs? There are a lot of new innovation with NFTs, like staking NFTs to get more NFTs with like Aloha, for example. There's all these different use cases that are popping up for NFTs that are trying to innovate and do something new and novel. And I'm really interested to see how this space evolves. So let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you for watching the video all the way until this point. If you did, make sure to comment #1ham in the video or in the comments below. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.